Hi, my name is Mikayla Reddy, Solutions Lead at WebPageTest, and this is Unlocking WebPerf. Throughout this video series, we're going to be meeting with different members of the WebPageTest team to go over web performance tips and best practices. Thanks for joining, and let's get started. So today we're joined here by Jeff Lembeck, a member of the WebPageTest team. Thank you so much for joining, Jeff. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do in WebPageTest?
Sure thing. Thanks for having me. I am an engineer on WebPageTest. I work specifically on the platform that it is developed on. So making sure that we have fast code that works well.
Love that. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining.
No problem.
Okay. So Jeff, you mentioned to me that you were hoping to talk about some performance budgets today. Why exactly are those important?
Okay. So I love the subject of performance budgets. I've led some teams in the past and been on a bunch of web teams up to this point in my career. And there's always there's room to focus on performance. But one of the things about it is that performance becomes this thing where it becomes so abstract that it's really, really difficult for you to pin down what you can even do. And so we look at performance as part of our general user experience, and we know that making a site faster is better, so to speak. But we don't necessarily always, until we have a performance budget in place, give a lot of thought to how we can prove that or make that a reality for us. And if you are on, say, a product-focused team at a company, maybe an e-commerce company or something like that, and there is functionality you need to add, you also need to be able to put into your engineering product planning, into your sprints and et cetera, room to be able to make sure that you address performance concerns and that you don't make the experience worse. And the reason for that is performance budgets help you with preventing, we like to refer to as perf regressions. So they measure to make sure that you do not get worse. And the reason for that is there's a lot of studies that connect worse user experience to fewer, or worse user experience coming out of worse performance. And a worse user experience means fewer conversions, higher bounce rate, a lower likeliness to return to the site. And so there's this direct correspondence or direct line from your site performing poorly to we don't make as much money. And that's why most of us get paid. We make the company money. So that's the big why it's important part. Yeah. There's something to go with that though. Like performance budgets, and sorry, I'm just gonna ramble here for a minute on you.
Yeah, no, go for it. This is great.
This is a thing for me. We get into this place that you have to kind of watch out for. You'll set up your performance budget, and you'll say, I have a few different kinds of things that I want to measure. There's timing-based measurements. So if you're looking for those, there's like time to interactive is a kind of famous one. The first contentful paint is kind of a famous one. And then there's rule-based metrics. Those will be your generic scores, speed index, lighthouse, page speed, etc. And then there's quantity-based ones, the size of all the files you're delivering, JavaScript files, CSS files, images, etc. And when people ask, or you're starting this out, there's always the question of which of these should we target? And because everybody kind of wants this silver bullet answer. They want a performance budget that measures one thing. And I have been on enough teams now who target a single thing, whether it be a lighthouse score or just the size of files, to start to realize that every thing that you can record is important. the real big part of this is getting to measuring everything. Like timings, rules, quantity, you want it all. Because over time, there's even going to be stuff that we don't know about yet that browsers will be able to put in there to measure better, and things that we can gather from real users and what they're doing. And so there's like an example for this. Core Web Vitals is super hot, and they give you great information for sure. But if you give an engineering team, especially, a thing where it's like, hey, your goal is to target specifically your Core Web Vitals, and you are going to make these numbers the lowest possible. That will probably get you a good experience, but a more performant website, but probably is key there. Like, you can game things, and that is where you'll get hit. And have you ever heard of the McNamara fallacy?
No, I haven't. What is that?
So the basic premise of the McNamara fallacy, and it has some very, very dark beginnings to it. It's a Vietnam War reference, but it matters a lot in data these days. And the big deal for it is, if you measure something that is simple, that's fine. Like, you should measure what can easily be measured. But if you disregard the other more difficult things to measure and just use that thing that was simple to measure as your way to measure success, you are screwed. Like, that's not going to work for you. So we need all the things. We need multiple kinds of monitoring, real user and synthetic. We need checks from all over the globe. You can't just have Chrome in your browser testing a local site for it. You need blocking times. You need load times. You need time to first byte. We need first and largest contentful paints. We need cumulative layout shift. I can never say that word right. And I mean, we really need that one. I think that one's good. But you need those, and over and over and over, we're going to find more and more things. And so I think that it's really important to create a performance budget where you start tracking the most amount of things possible. And that sounds like it's too much for the average person or team. And it would be too much if you were trying to target fixing them all at the same time. But that's not what we're going to do. If you get a performance budget going, you can go out there, you measure all your stuff, and then you write that down, save it somewhere, etc., and say, we're not going to do worse than this anymore. All of these things, we're going to make them better. And then you can start targeting certain things. You can look at the whole picture of what the user experience is and say, this is what's costing us right now. Is our site's performance bad because we sent too many images, or is our site's performance bad because we added a gigantic interstitial that changes how long it can be before somebody can actually interact with our site? And this is a way to be able to address it in that manner, to be able to say, I want to measure each of these, and you could hook it up to continuous integration. I would actually be super negligent here to not note that we sell a thing. But honestly, WebPageTest has an API. You can use the API during your continuous integration. You can grab the wrapper for it and fire off tests and use those results in a way to build your own monitoring system. And doing that provides you with the basis for what could be a successful and performant website later. So you start there and you measure everything, and then you go, okay, I'm going to break builds if any of these numbers get way worse than where they are right now, or any worse. It kind of depends on how bad you are right now. And then you go, look out there for the goals around things. Is it time to interactive should be less than 5 seconds, if I remember right, or some industry standard, or like largest contentful paint should be under 2.5 seconds. So you kind of gauge where the industry standards point for each of these things that you're measuring. And then you can say, I'll set warnings around the ones that I'm targeting for these right now. And if they go over, we can warn during it, but it's not going to break anything. It's just a, hey, this is still not great thing. You probably want to focus on 1 or 2 at a time, just so as you don't get so many warnings that you just start not even noticing they're there. Like that's so common. But you get that in place, and from there you can have a performance budget that actually is working with the team without a lot of heavy touch. You'll want to revisit it. You'll want to talk to your designers about, hey, this is where we've got an issue. It also gives you as an engineer, if you're on the team, some good leverage for when a bunch of extra tracking scripts or something like that want to get added. You could say, hey, nope, this broke some stuff, sorry. Or it actively is harming our performance budget, which we have agreed to with the product team. And therefore we have some movement forward on this in a way that's like, if this is this bad, I can't add something to it in a bad way. So that's the that was such a long-winded, but it's how it's important and how to get one going. So that's it.
Yeah, thank you. That was super insightful. And honestly, I mean, you can't just talk about a performance budget and think it's going to take 2 seconds to figure it out. It's not something that's easy. It's definitely something that's a little bit more complicated. So there's obviously a lot of different factors to take into consideration. And I think that you pointed out a ton of great ones. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Hey, no problem at all.